What's up, guys? We are back with a big Saturday of NCAA football action here on Saturday, September 7th. We're looking to run it back after an insane 8-1 run on our Week 1 NCAA football picks. Let us know in the comments how pumped you are for NCAA football and NFL videos on the weekends. If you want to win all of your bets this weekend, hit that like button. It's good luck and shows support for the channel and all the hard work we're putting in here every single day. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our daily content, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the value of the early lines. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. We have a team of experienced cappers over there for every major sport, currently covering Major League Baseball, NCAA football, UFC, and the NFL. NCAA football has been one of our most profitable sports over the years, and we have a seasoned expert capper over there that is bringing great value to all of our premium members. Click the link in the description if you're interested in signing up, and also to join our free email list to get the occasional free or premium pick straight to your inbox. Comment below with any bets you're looking at today, and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We are committed to responding to every single comment every day, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. Also, guys, channel members get early access to these NCAA football and NFL videos, so consider signing up for a channel membership today if you're interested in that. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day. We've got the number 4 Texas Longhorns taking on the number 9 Michigan Wolverines. The Longhorns came into this season riding high, fresh off a 12-win year, and now the only remaining goal for Texas is to make it to the mountaintop by winning a national championship. Making the move into the SEC undoubtedly makes things harder for this program, but also should make the recruiting process a little bit easier. Coach Sarkisian should be very happy with what he got from his team in Week 1, as Longhorns got the 52-0 win over Colorado State. It looks like the concerns about Texas' defense were pretty unfounded, albeit against a fairly weak opponent, but still, giving up only 74 passing yards and 118 rushing yards is an impressive feat against pretty much every opponent. Quinn Ewers had a very good day with the exception of a single interception, and we even got a brief look at young Arch Manning, who passed for a touchdown and nearly 100 yards. The running game actually went nuts as well, with a total of 190 yards and 3 touchdowns in the ground game, and once again, it's looking like this team is going to be a powerhouse. All that being said, guys, we're not going to overreact to one win over a non-conference opponent. Despite a dominant first game of the season, I still have questions about how the secondary could hold up against an actual passing attack, and there really wasn't a ton we could learn from that Week 1 matchup. Also, is Ewers going to look this good against real opponents, and will the Longhorns running game be as productive when there is some kind of balance in talent level? The Wolverines come into this season with a lot of unknowns under head coach Sherrone Moore, and while I'm not particularly worried about him leading the program, they're having only 5 starters returning makes me a little bit worried. Defensively, the Wolverines are going to try and retain their edge, and with a former NFL assistant at the helm and handling play calling duties for the defense, I think they will be just fine, and it doesn't hurt having one of the top cornerbacks in the NCAA in Will Johnson. In Week 1, we saw Michigan get a comfortable win over Fresno State, obviously not the toughest opponent, and they handled it well, guys, winning 30-10. Davis Warren looked a little suspect under center, throwing for only 118 yards and getting picked off once, but the running game was definitely just fine out there, with Mullings nearly breaking 100 yards on only 15 carries. Defensively, the Wolverines generated 2 interceptions and looked pretty good out there on defense, not too worried about them on that side of the ball. In terms of the matchup for this one, in this game, I think we're going to really see both teams put in a lot of work to try and establish the running game. What level of success either side will have is yet to be seen, but with 2 very good defenses out there and teams that like to run the ball a lot, we're shading towards the under, as I think we'll see offense be at an absolute premium in this game. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Arkansas Razorbacks going on the road to take on the number 17 Oklahoma State Cowboys. Sam Pittman is 100% a coach on the hot seat coming into this season after failing to live up to expectations in 2023. This squad needs to see massive improvement if they're going to be better than many expect, and the idea is that if Bobby Petrino really is one of the best offensive coordinator hires that were made in the offseason, then they might be able to shock everyone. Taylor Green looked great leading up to the season, and if the Boise State transfer can be great, there's no reason this offense can't be very good. On defense, the Razorbacks also have a second-year coordinator in Travis Williams, and the hope is that a solid transfer class and a year of experience will have them looking much better in the early goings this year than they did a season ago. In Week 1, we saw Arkansas shut out lowly Arkansas Pine Bluff 70-0 and put up all kinds of crazy numbers, but here in Week 2, they're going to be facing a much more real test of where they're at here early in the season. Taylor Green was good in the win, and the Arkansas running game looked insane, but like I said, guys, they weren't even playing a real team, so lots still to learn here about this Razorback squad. Looking at Oklahoma State, the Cowboys made it to the Big 12 title game last year despite a slow start to their season, something they really want to avoid here with a win on Saturday. Mike Gundy brought back a crazy 20 guarantee starters this season, and with one of the best running backs in the nation and one of the best offensive lines to go along with Ollie Gordon, I'm expecting this team to be able to run the ball on pretty much anyone out there. Alan Bowman had his ups and downs a season ago and really needs to find a way to cut down on the interceptions for this squad to reach the next level. Defensively, the Cowboys should expect to improve somewhere here in 2024, and honestly, with nothing besides experience, that should help at least somewhat. They weren't terrible aside from the inability to generate consistent pass rush, and a couple of All-American linebackers and Colin Oliver and Nick Martin could help that situation out quite a bit. In week 1, Oklahoma State got a pretty comfortable win over South Dakota State, with Bowman looking great out there, completing 24 of 34 passes for 267 yards and 3 touchdowns, and importantly, avoiding those costly interceptions. We also saw Gordon look great running the ball. The concern is giving up 20 points to the Jackrabbits and struggling to stop the run. In this one, guys, I have a few different things to look at. First of all, both teams seem determined to run the ball here at the beginning of the season, and both seem very capable of doing that from what I saw in week 1. And if both run the ball, then we want to take a good hard look at that under. Also worth looking at in this one, I think we want to consider Oklahoma State minus 7.5, as I think Arkansas is being overvalued due to a blowout in week 1 that I really don't think means anything based on who they beat. And overall, I just think the Cowboys are the significantly better team. Hey guys, jumping in here with a quick ad break. First of all, this is a great time to sign up at stumpthespread.com. Signing up for a premium membership gets you access to our entire team of cappers covering MLB, NCAA Football, UFC, and the NFL. If you just want to test out the service, a great way to do that is by joining our free email list, which will get you the occasional free or premium pick straight to your inbox. Just to clarify some of the questions we've been getting, I'm not the NCAA Football capper for stumpthespread.com. These YouTube picks are obviously free to everyone and are just what I am seeing out there. We have an expert with nearly 15 years of experience that covers NCAA football, and the research he puts in keeping track of all of these teams is actually wild. His in-depth knowledge has made college football one of our most profitable sports, bringing tons of value to our premium members. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're new, and become a channel member for early access to all of our NCAA football and NFL videos. Now guys, back to the games. Next up, we've got the Pittsburgh Panthers going on the road to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats. Pittsburgh, last year, the Panthers were absolutely terrible, going 3-9 overall, and while Pat Narduzzi probably isn't getting fired this season, it's for sure time for this squad to show some improvement. The offense really needed to improve coming into this year, and with a bunch of changes, especially at play caller, they got off to a flying start in week 1, scoring 55 points in their comfortable win over Kent State. It sounds like the Panthers are going to be sticking with Holstein after a very good performance in week 1, where he passed for well over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns while only turning the ball over once. We also saw Desmond Reed look amazing out of the backfield, putting up 145 yards and a touchdown of his own on only 14 carries. If the offense can continue to roll along like this, I think we can pretty safely say that Holstein is going to be locking up that starting spot. The offensive line clearly looks great. Bringing back all of those starters, guys, is really paying off. On defense, giving up 24 points to a team like Kent State is not an amazing look. Pitt did a decent job of holding down the run, but I wouldn't say it was a complete lockdown situation. The Panthers also gave up kind of a lot in the passing game, allowing 2 touchdowns and 181 yards, but they did have an interception and forced a fumble, so we will give them some credit there, but not going to be throwing this defense a parade. In terms of their opponent in this game, Cincinnati comes into this one. I mean, last season the Bearcats got off to a good start that included an upset win over Pitt, but the rest of the season was kind of a disaster as they finished things up 3-9 on the year. There have been a lot of changes to this roster over the offseason, and they did bring in a lot of transfers, including starting quarterback Brendan Sorsby. Right now, this program is really looking to turn things around and did start off their season with a win over Townsend, but at 38-20, it doesn't feel like a dominant win to me. On offense, Cincinnati looked amazing in the win, scoring 38 points and passing for nearly 400 yards and 2 touchdowns without an interception, and also we saw the running game go absolutely crazy, accounting for 3 touchdowns and 275 ground yards. On defense, giving up 20 points to a pretty weak opponent is not a great look, and they really had a hard time against both the run and the pass and generated only a single turnover. Right now, I don't think the defense has improved as much as hoped in the offseason, and all the transfer additions don't have them looking much better than the unit that allowed 30 points per game a year ago. It looks like the over is the play in this game to me, guys. I'm not very interested in either defense right now, and both offenses got off to great starts to their respective seasons. If neither team can stop the running game at all, we don't have to worry as much as we normally would about that shortening the game, and both teams have certainly shown they can pass the ball. All of that, guys, adds up to the over being some great value. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Baylor Bears going on the road to take on the number 12 Utah Utes. Baylor, with a coach on the hot seat after 2 bad seasons, it's put up or shut up time for them. Revamping the staff kind of feels like grasping at straws to me, but we'll see if any of this really makes a difference. The Bears' offense was not good last year, averaging only 23.1 points per game and looking really bad in the red zone. Bringing in Dequan Finn is supposed to be the addition that will turn this offense around, and in a Week 1 cupcake game against a terrible opponent, he got picked off twice and completed 14 of 22 passes for only 192 yards. I'm not sure if you can tell from the tone of my voice right now, but this is not a guy I'm very impressed with so far. The Baylor running game managed to kind of control things, but 164 yards on 43 attempts and 2 touchdowns isn't exactly lighting the world on fire against a team like Tarleton State. So on defense, guys, the Bears dominated in Week 1, but I really don't care about how they look against a team like that. Having a different play caller on defense can make a big difference. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to have to see it to believe it this season. The secondary and linebacker core are supposed to be better this year, but I do think there's a good chance they are going to struggle to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Utah didn't have a great time a season ago thanks in large part to a bunch of injuries, but this is a new year and with everyone healthy coming into the season, expectations are very high. This should be an elite offensive team with Cameron Rising under center, and bringing in Dorian Singer from USC will give the Utes another big threat on the outside. The offensive line should be elite once again, and they have elite veterans out there at running back. In Week 1, we saw Utah go nuts, winning 49-0 in an easy warm-up against Southern Utah. Rising put up 254 yards and 5 touchdowns on only 15 passing attempts, and really this game looked like mostly a warm-up for what is going to be an elite offense that can move the ball both through the air and on the ground. On defense, putting up a shutout in Week 1 has to feel pretty good, but let's not overreact to them dominating a terrible opponent. That side of the ball has been a strength for Utah for at least the last couple of seasons, and I don't expect that to change here. The Utes brought back 8 starters from a team that only allowed 19.3 points per game last year, and bringing in a bunch of transfers that will make the secondary even better is just going to make things tougher for Utah's opponents. In this matchup, guys, I'm worried about how Baylor can hold up. The Bears really don't look like an improved team to me this year, at least not in meaningful ways, and Utah looks absolutely loaded. The Utes are healthy coming into this game, and we're firing on all cylinders in Week 1 on both sides of the ball, which is a great sign for a team that has aspirations to be in the college football playoff. Guys, give me Utah in this one. I know it's minus 14.5. It would be great if we could get this down to 14 or 13.5. I don't see that happening, and I don't think it's a big deal. Go ahead and give me the Utes to get a big win and cover in this one. If you're really interested in the over-under here, I would probably lean slightly towards the over, but that's not my main focus in this game. Next up, we're looking at the California Golden Bears going on the road to take on the Auburn Tigers. Cal comes into this game moving over to the ACC. Should be an interesting situation for them, as Justin Wilcox and company are supposed to have a chance to finally break through for a winning season. The Golden Bears have a new defensive play caller here in 2024, and bringing in Chandler Rogers at quarterback is slated to be a big deal, but we'll have to wait and see how they do against some actual competition. In the running game, we have people saying that Jaden Ott is one of the most underrated players in the nation, but really a main focus of this offense is going to be limiting all of those costly turnovers. Cal got the Week 1 win over UC Davis 31-13, but were only leading by 1 point at halftime. Mendoza took the majority of snaps at quarterback and didn't look amazing, and while Ott had 2 touchdowns on 14 carries and 49 yards, he wasn't exactly burning the place down. A big problem for the Golden Bears last year was their defense, which gave up a startling 32.8 points per game, despite the defensive side of the ball being the calling card of Wilcox in his career. They had 3 interceptions in Week 1, which is impressive, but I struggle to think that they can do anything like that against Auburn or really any SEC opponent. Could Cal have improved defensively over the offseason? Sure. But do I think it's going to be a massive difference? Not so far. In terms of their opponent in this game, the Auburn Tigers took a nice step forward under Hugh Freeze in 2023 and got themselves into a bowl game, but losing 2 in a row plus their bowl game against Maryland is not what this rabid fan base had in mind. Peyton Thorne is now in his 2nd season at quarterback and should be settling in a little bit, and has an absolutely loaded wide receiver core that's going to be way better than it was a season ago. Running back Jarquez Hunter could be one of the best backs in the SEC, and the offensive line should be very solid as well, bringing back 3 starters. In a very easy Week 1 matchup against Alabama A&M, we saw Thorne look great under center, passing for 322 yards and 4 touchdowns, and we saw the Tigers' running game look elite as well, putting up 3 touchdowns and 177 yards on only 18 carries. Auburn's hoping for big things from this new defensive coordinator, G.J. Durkin, who sees 5 starters coming back last season and has to be hoping he can prove a lot on a defense that allowed 24.4 points per game to SEC opponents. While that's not a terrible number, guys, definitely they're hoping for better. There are some rising stars on the defensive side, squad, but I'm a little bit worried about the secondary that will be featuring 4 new starters here to open the season. This is looking like a very tough spot for Cal to me, guys. The Golden Bears don't really have the talent level on either side of the ball to hang with this Auburn team, and I'm expecting the Cal secondary to really struggle and for the Tigers to be able to run the ball basically whenever they feel like it. With how mediocre the Cal defense is looking now and Auburn secondary not looking amazing, you could interest me in the over as well, but I think the real value here is in taking Auburn at -13. I think they could comfortably win this game by 3 or more touchdowns. I don't think the Golden Bears are going to have a very good time at all. I think we could see Auburn's defense scoring some points for them, so generally speaking, I think this is a great spot for the Auburn Tigers. Next on the docket, guys, we're looking at the Michigan State Spartans going on the road to take on the Maryland Terrapins. Michigan State, they're trying to get this program going again by bringing in Jonathan Smith for something of an overhaul with a new staff and new schemes. We'll see how all the coaching changes shake out, but right now I'm more worried about the players they are going to be able to put out there. The offense is for sure in rebuild mode, with the offensive line really having a chance to be problematic. If that line can be decent, there's potential for a breakout season from transfer quarterback here, and with a solid tight end and a couple of decent wide receivers, the passing game could be good if the offensive line can give them any sort of protection. The Spartans have good running back options, but how good will they be if the offensive line is not any good? And in week 1, Michigan State was barely able to get by FAU. They won that game 16-10, and really no one on this offense outside of the running game looked very good. Michigan State lost 3 huge impact players on the defensive side of the ball, and this squad was terrible last season, allowing 30.9 points per game in Big Ten play. A staggering 15 transfers came in to bolster this defense, and they only allowed 10 points in game 1, but I'm not about to overreact to that against FAU. In terms of Maryland, guys, the Terrapins helped us out in week 1 with a dominant 50-7 win over hapless UConn, and now are looking to get to work here against a Big Ten opponent. In the win, we saw Edwards Jr. look like a monster, passing for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns without turning the ball over. The running game was also dominant for Maryland in game 1, with basically every running back who touched the ball going off, and right now things are looking very, very good for them on the ground. Mike Locksley has to be feeling very positive coming into their first Big Ten game of the season, as he has his team rolling here right out of the gate. On defense, the Terrapins were very good last season, and they picked up right where they left off. The secondary doesn't really look to be missing the guys that left in the offseason, and coordinator Brian Williams seems to really know what he's got going on. The strong foundation this defense was looking to build up front seems definitely to be ready to go, as they dominated in the trenches, allowing only 80 rushing yards on 30 attempts. Overall, I feel great about this team right now on both sides of the ball. Looking at this game, we see Michigan State is 2-10 in their last 12 road games. Maryland is 4-0 over their last 4 games against non-ranked opponents. I'm going with Maryland in this one, guys. They've looked like the far better team and have a lot less going on as a program right now, and we have all kinds of moving parts going on for the Spartans. In terms of the over-under in this game, we don't have any big trends to really go with. That being said, if you're forcing me to look at the over-under, I'd probably go with the over, since I think there's a shot that Maryland could cover this all on their own. Next up, we've got the number 22 Kansas Jayhawks going on the road to take on the Illinois Fighting Illini. The Jayhawks and head coach Lance Leopold come into the season hoping they can take the next big step this year and compete for a spot in the Big 12 championship. With quarterback Jalen Daniels back from injury and a very loaded group of skill players, including Devin Neal, an All-American running back, and a deep group of wide receivers that have shown some very possible NFL talent, the offense should be very, very good. Rebuilding the offensive line is a little bit of a concern here, but the transfer portal helped out, and bringing back Logan Brown from injury is an additional, definitely a good thing there. Kansas looked very good in their week 1 matchup against Lindenwood, winning 48-3, and while that was obviously not any sort of real test, it was good to see the offense operating as intended and the running game able to dominate, putting up 331 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. On defense, there really isn't much to take away from a game where they had such a huge talent edge, but things are looking up for the Jayhawks on that side of the ball. Over the last 3 years, they've been improving year over year, and with a loaded transfer class that should bolster the defensive line and a strong secondary that was borderline dominant last season in Big 12 play, I fully expect to see Kansas be a very tough team to score against. The dream for Illinois this season would be to make a bowl game, and with a 5-7 record last year, that's not a huge stretch. That being said, this team is going to have to improve on both sides of the ball if they're going to make that happen. On offense, we see the Illini bringing back 3 starters to the offensive line, and the hope is that Luke Altimer is going to bring improvement here in his second season. Obviously, having good protection will play a big part in what he's able to do this year. The running game is projected to be very good in the hands of Caden Fagan, and that could take some pressure off of the passing game that could struggle a bit with Isaiah Williams leaving for the NFL. On defense, Illinois took a big leap backwards last season, allowing 29.4 points per game, and improvement on that side of the ball is a must if they're going to find their way into a bowl game. The D-line lost 2 very important pieces in the offseason, and while the transfers might might be all right. It feels like a big ask for this unit to be as good as they were back in 2023 or even as good as they were last year. The secondary is also a notable concern for this team as they were terrible a season ago. Looking at how these two teams match up against each other, I've got some pretty big concerns about Illinois. Their passing game could have a really hard time against the elite secondary of the Jayhawks, and how good is their defense really going to be against a Kansas team that is looking loaded on offense? Give me the Jayhawks to get the win and cover on the road in this one. I think they are the far, far better team, and the fact that they're not double-digit favorites is a little bit crazy to me. Maybe I'm undervaluing Illinois, but I really don't think so. I think Kansas is in a fantastic spot for this one. You could also talk me into taking a little bit of a look at the under 55.5. I think Kansas is going to control the possession in this game. I think they're going to be running the ball very aggressively and with a lot of success. So I think that could end up with the clock running a lot, and maybe we could see an under game. But really, guys, I'm just interested in the Jayhawks to win this one easily by a touchdown or more. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Tennessee Volunteers going on the road to take on the NC State Wolfpack. Tennessee finished last season 9-4 overall, which was a small step back, but coming into this season, expectations are high that the Volunteers can contend for a college football playoff spot. The offense should be solid once again behind Nico Iamaleava, who was good last season and had a good group of skill players around him. Squirrel White and Brew McCoy will be looking to give him a couple of elite pass-catching options, and the hope is that adding LSU transfer Lance Hurd to the offensive line should keep them as one of the better units in the SEC and make running the ball easy for Dylan Sampson, who is supposed to be poised for a breakout year. Last week against Chattanooga in a 69-3 blowout, everything was clicking for Tennessee on offense, so we'll see how they can do here against a real opponent. On defense, I'm not expecting anything insane from this team as they didn't necessarily kill it a season ago, and their real mission was to get the occasional stop or turnover to get the ball back into the hands of this potent offense. James Pierce will be looking to build on a season where he put up 10 sacks, and with a solid linebacker core, the main concern is really just their secondary, which lost some of the important guys here in the offseason. Their opponent in this game, NC State, has become a very solid program over Dorian, putting up 8 wins in 6 out of their last 7 seasons, and the dream is that this team will be a real contender for a spot in the ACC title game. Bringing in Grayson McCall through the transfer portal is one of the big reasons everyone is expecting good things from this offense, and thanks to a wide receiver core that should be one of the best in the conference, his life should be pretty easy. 4 starters are back for this offensive line, which spells good things for the protection as well as for Jordan Waters coming up big in the running game. In their 38-21 win over Western Carolina in Week 1, the Wolfpack was actually losing going into the 4th quarter, which doesn't really fill me with tons of optimism for them right there, but weird things can definitely happen in Week 1. A big reason for that game even being close was the NC State defense that had a really tough time against both the run and the pass, despite going against a fairly weak opponent. For the last 3 years, this unit has been very good, but bringing back only 3 starters on that side of the ball is looking extremely problematic. But this looks like a talented group, so maybe they'll figure it out down the stretch here, but in the early goings, I'm definitely a bit worried. In this game, we're looking at taking Tennessee at -10 or -9.5. There is some chance we could wait and see if we could get them below that key number of 10. The Bulls had a much cleaner Week 1 tune-up game, and that gives me confidence not only in this offense, but in their defense to make things tough against an NC State team that couldn't get anything going until the 4th quarter. I do think there could be some reason to take a look at the over, as I don't trust the NC State defense at all, and both these offenses are very good, but I think the value in this one is on Tennessee to win this game by double digits. Last but not least here, guys, we're looking at the Colorado Buffaloes going on the road to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Colorado took a big step towards being a legitimate program last season, but despite a fast start to the season, things didn't really hold up that well down the stretch. Deion made lots of headlines during the offseason. Not very many of them were positive ones, though. All that being said, the Buffaloes have one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the NCAA and a really cool but impractical receiver/defensive back in Travis Hunter. But is this team going to be able to make it into a bowl game in 2024? Time will tell. Colorado really beefed up the offensive line with a whole slew of transfer additions, but will that be enough to let this unit have another elite season? I think the offense is going to be good, guys. I'm not really holding my breath here, but I don't think there's any reason to think the offense itself is really going to fall off in a big way. Defense, though, was a disaster situation for Colorado last year, giving up 36.3 points per game in their Pac-12 games, and they got absolutely smothered in terms of pass rush, which is obviously a huge problem. New defensive coordinator Robert Livingston coming over for the Bengals is going to have his work cut out for him with this unit, and while the additions they made through the transfer portal might be nice, we have yet to see that translate as North Dakota State gave Colorado absolutely all they could handle in Week 1, a game that the Buffaloes won 31-26. Could have been a disaster loss, honestly, guys, with the defense offense really struggling to stop anyone or anything. The defense just has to be better. I know the flashy thing is to put up tons of points, but you have to be able to stop your opponent at least sometimes, because the offense isn't going to score absolutely every single time. So we'll see what they can do here in terms of their opponent here. The Cornhuskers, hopes are high for the Nebraska faithful in their second season of Matt Rule, but last year things didn't look amazing with this team posting a -17 in the turnover margin. Despite the turnover problems though, the Cornhuskers managed to go 5-7, and they're going to be focused on making it to a bowl game this year. Bringing in a 5-star quarterback definitely helps, and he got off to a good start in a crisp, efficient 40-7 win over UTEP in week 1. The running game was killing it out there as well. Bringing back 3 starters on the offensive line is very much showing a lot of benefits here in the early goings. On defense, Nebraska was very good last year, giving up only 18.3 points per game, and there is reason to think they could be even better this season. Only 2 teams scored more than 24 points against the Cornhuskers last year, and with all the important guys coming back, there is no reason to think they will take a big step back. In this matchup, guys, I'm going to leave picking the side on this game up to our full-time NCAA football capper at Stump the Spread. In terms of the over-under, though, we have a few things to look at. First of all, we're going to look at the Nebraska defense, which is looking very good once again this season, as well as the trend that the under is 5-1 over the last 6 games, where Nebraska was a home favorite. I'm leaning towards the under in this game, as I think both teams will try, at least in part, to control the ball in time of possession with running the clock down and running the ball. I don't necessarily love that Colorado defense. That does make me a little bit concerned, but we have a very big over-under number out there. So, guys, I do think we're going to go ahead and side with the under in this spot. I think we could see decent stuff from at least the Nebraska defense. Colorado does tend to run the ball at least some, and Nebraska is definitely going to want to run the ball as much as they can to keep the ball out of the Colorado offense's hands. So, give me the under in this one. I think it's got some reasonable value, but I do think the better play in this one is on the side, and you can find that play over at stumpthespread.com. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.